Hello and welcome back to the English Learning Podcast. I'm your host, Henry, and today we're diving into a super important topic, how to think in English.
And I'm Sarah. If you've ever found yourself translating words in your head before speaking, this episode is for you. We'll help you break that habit and start thinking naturally in English.
Exactly. Thinking in English is one of the biggest steps toward fluency. It helps you speak faster, sound more natural, and gain confidence. But we know it's not always easy, right, Sarah?
Right. A lot of learners struggle with this because they've spent years thinking in their native language first, then translating to English. It's totally normal. But don't worry, we have some great tips to help you shift your mindset.
Yep. In this episode, we'll talk about why thinking in English is important, the challenges you might face, and most importantly, some fun and practical strategies to help you start thinking in English every day.
And stick around until the end because we'll also share some simple exercises you can try right now to train your brain to think in English.
Sounds exciting, right? So let's get started. First, let's talk about why thinking in English is such a game changer for your learning journey. So let's dive into our first big question. Why is thinking in English so important? You might be wondering, can I just translate in my head? Well, let's talk about that.
Good point. A lot of English learners start by translating from their native language to English. It makes sense at first, but here's the problem. It slows you down.
Exactly. Imagine this. You're in a conversation and someone asks, "What did you do this weekend?" Instead of answering right away, your brain first thinks in your native language, then translates each word into English, and then you finally speak. That process takes time, and by the time you're ready to respond, the conversation might have already moved on.
Right. And not only does it slow you down, but it can also make your sentences sound unnatural. Languages don't translate word for word. If you try to think in your native language first, you might end up saying something that doesn't sound quite right in English.
Exactly. When you think directly in English, you don't have to worry about awkward translations. You can respond faster and more naturally. Plus, it helps you develop a real feel for the language instead of just memorizing rules.
And let's not forget confidence. When you stop translating, you feel more comfortable speaking. You're not second-guessing every word. You just say it.
That's a huge point, Sarah. Many learners hesitate because they're afraid of making mistakes. But the truth is, fluency isn't about being perfect. It's about being able to communicate. And thinking in English helps you get there faster.
Absolutely. And one more thing, thinking in English also helps with listening skills. When you stop translating in your head, your brain gets used to processing English naturally. That means you'll understand native speakers better without needing to mentally convert everything to your first language.
That's a great benefit. So to sum it up, thinking in English helps you. 1. Speak faster and more naturally. 2. Avoid awkward translations. 3. Feel more confident when speaking. And 4. Improve your listening skills.
Sounds like a pretty good reason to start practicing, right? But of course, we know it's not always easy. In fact, most learners struggle with this at first. So, let's talk about some of the biggest challenges you might face when trying to think in English.
So now that we know why thinking in English is important, let's talk about the challenges. Because let's be honest, this isn't always easy.
That's so true. If you've ever tried to think in English and felt stuck, don't worry. You're not alone. Most learners face similar struggles, and today, we're going to break them down.
All right, let's start with the biggest challenge, the habit of translating. This is something almost every learner does at first. You think in your native language, translate it into English, and then speak. But as we mentioned earlier, this slows you down.
Yes, and sometimes direct translation doesn't work. Have you ever tried to translate an expression from your native language and it just didn't make sense in English?
Oh, absolutely. I've heard some funny examples of this. For instance, in some languages, If you translate, "It's raining cats and dogs," literally, it sounds like animals are falling from the sky.
Exactly. Every language has its own way of expressing things. That's why translating word for word doesn't always work, and why it's so important to train your brain to think in English instead.
All right, challenge number 2, lack of vocabulary. If you don't know enough English words, it's hard to think in English, right?
Right. When learners get stuck, it's often because they don't know the words they need. And when that happens, their brain automatically switches back to their native language.
But don't worry, there's a solution. You don't need to know every word in English. Instead, you can learn how to describe things in different ways. For example, if you don't know the word refrigerator, you can say the cold place where I keep food.
That's a great tip. Native speakers do this all the time, too. If they forget a word, they just explain it in another way. So if you don't know a word, don't panic. Just describe it.
All right, challenge number 3, fear of making mistakes. A lot of learners are afraid of thinking in English because they're worried about getting things wrong.
Yes, and that fear can be paralyzing. Some people think, what if I make a mistake? Or what if I sound silly? But here's the truth. Mistakes are part of learning.
Exactly. If you're waiting to be perfect before you start thinking in English, you'll never start. The key is to practice, even if you make mistakes along the way.
That's right. And here's a fun fact. Most native speakers don't even notice small mistakes. They just focus on what you're trying to say. So don't be afraid to think in English, even if it's not perfect.
Okay, last challenge, lack of practice. If you're not actively trying to think in English every day, your brain will default to your native language.
Exactly. Thinking in English is like a muscle. You have to train it. The more you practice, the easier it becomes.
All right, let's quickly summarize the biggest challenges. 1. Translating instead of thinking directly in English. 2. Not knowing enough vocabulary. 3. Fear of making mistakes. And 4. Not practicing enough.
And now, the big question. How do we overcome these challenges? Well, don't worry. That's exactly what we're going to cover next. We have some fun and practical strategies to help you start thinking in English right away.
All right, now that we've covered the biggest challenges, let's get to the fun part. Solutions. We have some really effective strategies that will help you start thinking in English naturally.
Yes, and these aren't boring textbook tips. These are real-life strategies. You can use every day to train your brain to think in English.
Exactly. So let's jump right in. Strategy number 1. Surround yourself with English. This means making English part of your daily life.
Right. One of the best ways to start thinking in English is to immerse yourself in it. Even if you don't live in an English-speaking country, you can create an English environment around you.
For example, change your phone settings to English. Listen to English podcasts, watch movies in English without subtitles, and follow English-speaking influencers on social media.
Yes, and try to think about what you see and hear in English. If you're watching a show, don't just listen, think about what's happening in English.
All right, next strategy. Describe your day in English. This is a super easy way to start thinking in English, and you can do it anytime.
Yes, just describe what you're doing in your head. For example, when you wake up, think, I am brushing my teeth, now I am making coffee. The coffee smells great. Just simple sentences like that.
And if you don't know a word, don't stop. Just describe it in another way, like we mentioned earlier. If you don't know the word for microwave, just say, the machine that heats my food quickly.
That brings us to our next strategy. Use visualization and association. Instead of translating, try to connect English words with images in your mind.
Yes, for example, when you think of the word apple, don't imagine the word in your native language. Imagine an actual apple. This helps your brain connect directly to English without translating.
And this works great for learning new words, too. Instead of memorizing translations, imagine situations where you would use the word. It makes learning much more natural.
All right, next tip. Have conversations in your head. This one is fun because you can do it anytime, while walking, cooking, or even before going to sleep.
Yes, just imagine a situation and talk to yourself in English. For example, pretend you're ordering coffee. You can think, I'd like a coffee, please. Oh, wait, should I get tea instead? No, I'll stick with coffee. It's like practicing a real conversation in your mind.
And if you make a mistake, no problem. It's just you and your thoughts, so there's no pressure.
Okay, next tip. Learn words in context, not in isolation. This means learning words inside sentences instead of just memorizing them alone.
Yes, if you just learn random words, they're harder to remember. But if you learn them inside a sentence, your brain connects them to a real situation.
For example, instead of memorizing the word delicious, learn it like this. This pizza is delicious. That way, when you think about food, your brain will naturally bring up that phrase.
All right, time for something fun. Fast thinking games. These are great for training your brain to think quickly in English.
Yes, one simple game is, what's this? Just look around you and name objects as fast as you can in English. For example, chair, window, computer, book, coffee cup. Try not to pause.
And another fun game is 1 minute challenge. Set a timer for 1 minute and talk about any random topic in English. No stopping, no translating, just keep going.
Okay, last but not least, change your thinking language to English. This is the ultimate goal, right?
Exactly. Instead of thinking in your native language and translating, start small. Try thinking simple thoughts in English. If you're hungry, think, I need to eat something. If you're tired, think, I should sleep early tonight.
And the more you practice, the more natural it will become.
All right, let's quickly go over the strategies we covered. 1. Surround yourself with English. 2. Describe your day in English. 3. Use visualization instead of translation. 4. Have inner conversations. 5. Learn vocabulary in context. 6. Play fast-thinking games. 7. Change your thinking language to English.
That's a lot of great tips. And remember, you don't have to do everything at once. Just start with 1 or 2 strategies and build from there.
Exactly. Now, to make this even more fun, we have some simple brain training activities you can start doing right now. So let's move on to some fun exercises to help you think in English faster. All right, now that we've covered some great strategies, let's make things even more exciting. It's time for some fun activities that will help you start thinking in English without even realizing it.
Yes, because let's be honest, learning a language should be fun. If you enjoy the process, you'll improve much faster.
Exactly. So let's jump into our first fun activity, the 5-second object challenge.
This one is super simple and perfect for training your brain to think quickly in English. Here's how it works. Look around you and name objects as fast as you can in English.
Right. For example, if you're in your room, you might say lamp, bed, window, pillow, book. Just go as fast as possible.
And don't overthink it. The goal is to get used to thinking in English instantly. If you don't know a word, describe it. Instead of remote control, you can say, the thing I use to change TV channels.
Okay, next activity, the 1-minute speaking challenge. This one is great for practicing fluency and thinking on your feet.
Yes, just pick a random topic and speak about it for 1 minute without stopping. It can be your favorite food, your last vacation, what you did today, anything.
And if you get stuck, don't pause. Just describe what you want to say in a different way. The key is to keep talking.
Okay, this next one is super fun. Silent movie dubbing. Have you ever watched a movie on mute and made up your own dialogue?
Oh, I love this one. Just play a movie or a TV show on silent and try to make up the conversation in English. It can be totally serious or completely silly.
Yes, this helps you think creatively in English and practice forming sentences in real time.
All right, next game, storytelling with random words. This one helps with vocabulary and creativity.
Here's how it works. Write down 5 random words. For example, banana, airplane, teacher, music, and elephant. Now make a short story using all those words.
Oh, that sounds fun. So maybe something like, a teacher was eating a banana on an airplane when suddenly she saw an elephant dancing to music.
Exactly. It doesn't have to make sense. The crazier, the better. The goal is just to think in English while being creative.
All right, here's a fun mental exercise, the inner debate game. This is perfect if you like to challenge yourself.
Yes, just pick a simple topic, like, is coffee better than tea? And argue both sides in your head in English.
For example, coffee gives me more energy, but tea is healthier. Coffee is great in the morning, but tea is relaxing at night. Just go back and forth like a real debate.
This is great for practicing thinking in English because it forces you to develop ideas instead of just memorizing sentences.
All right, last one. Describe a picture challenge. This is a simple but powerful way to train your brain to think in English.
Just pick a random picture, maybe from a magazine, social media, or even a family photo, and describe everything you see in English.
For example, if you see a picture of a beach, you could say, the sky is blue. There are people walking by the water. A boy is building a sandcastle.
Yes, and if you want an extra challenge, try making up a short story about what's happening in the picture.
Okay, let's do a quick recap of all the fun activities we covered today. 1. The 5-second object challenge. 2. The 1-minute speaking challenge. 3rd, silent movie dubbing. 4th, storytelling with random words. 5. The inner debate game. 6. Describe a picture challenge.
These activities are fun, easy, and super effective. And the best part? You can do them anytime, anywhere.
That's right. So if you're serious about thinking in English, try adding 1 or 2 of these activities to your daily routine.
And speaking of routines, in our next section, we'll share some real-life success stories and personal experiences from people who have mastered the skill of thinking in English.
Now that we've shared some powerful strategies and fun activities, let's talk about real people who have successfully trained themselves to think in English. Because trust me, if they can do it, so can you.
Yes, we actually asked some of our listeners and English learners to share their experiences with us, and we got some amazing responses.
All right, let's start with Maria from Brazil. She told us that at first she used to translate everything in her head, which made her feel slow and frustrated. But then she started using the describe your day technique and the 1-minute speaking challenge. And after a few months, she found herself naturally thinking in English.
That's incredible! Maria said she started with just a few simple thoughts in English, like I'm making breakfast or it's a sunny day. Then, little by little, her brain got used to it, and now she even dreams in English sometimes.
That's so cool. And speaking of dreams, we also heard from Amit from India. He told us that watching movies in English really helped him, but what made the biggest difference was the silent movie dubbing game.
Yes. Amit said that at first, he was afraid of speaking English because he thought he would make too many mistakes. But by doing this fun activity alone, he built confidence. Now he thinks in English without even trying.
That's such a great example. And then there's Lena from Spain. She told us that one of the biggest breakthroughs for her was talking to herself in English. At first, she felt silly, but over time, it became second nature. Now, when she faces an everyday situation, like choosing what to eat or planning her day, she automatically thinks about it in English.
That's amazing. And it just goes to show the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. It's not about being perfect. It's about getting comfortable with the language.
Absolutely, and we want to hear from more of you. If you've tried any of the strategies we talked about today, send us a message or comment on our podcast. We'd love to feature more listener stories in the future.
Yes, and now let's wrap things up with our final thoughts and a special challenge for you to start thinking in English today.
Wow, we've covered a lot today. We talked about why thinking in English is so important, the challenges learners face, and the best strategies and fun activities to help you train your brain.
Yes, and we've also heard inspiring stories from real learners who have successfully made the switch to thinking in English. So now the big question is, what's next? How can you take action today?
Well, here's our challenge for you. Pick just one strategy from today's episode and start using it right now.
That's right. Maybe you start by describing your day in English, or maybe you try the 5-second object challenge. Whatever you choose, make it simple and fun.
And remember, thinking in English isn't about being perfect. It's about practicing consistently. If you do a little every day, you'll be amazed at how much progress you make.
And don't forget, we're here to support you. If you enjoyed this episode, let us know which strategy you're trying first. Leave a comment, send us a message, or tag us on social media using the hashtag ThinkInEnglishChallenge.
Yes. And if you found this podcast helpful, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend who's learning English. Let's help more people think in English with confidence.
Thanks so much for listening. Keep practicing, keep thinking in English, and we'll see you in the next episode.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the English Learning Podcast. We hope you found these tips and activities helpful in training your brain to think in English.
Yes. And remember, the key is to be consistent. Even small daily efforts will make a big difference over time.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss an update. And if you're listening on a platform like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we'd love it if you could leave us a review. It really helps more learners find our podcast.
And we want to hear from you. Which strategy are you going to try first? Let us know by commenting, messaging us, or tagging us on social media with hashtag ThinkInEnglishChallenge.
Thanks for being part of our English learning community. Keep practicing, keep thinking in English, and we'll see you in the next episode.